Good morning everyone, I'm going to start with a little confession. I'm already over yesterday's defeat to Manchester City. Sometimes the day after it can bother me a little bit for various different reasons, but not today. And in fairness, I was already over it by the time the full-time whistle went. I think it's because I was expecting to get beat, and I used the phrase in the review, we rode our luck, but did well. And I stand by that actually, and it doesn't really necessarily make sense. But when I was reading the comments of the review this morning, just before recording this, one of our subscribers, James, replied saying he felt the same. He enjoyed the phrase, he liked it, and he said that he agreed, he felt the same way. That's all I need. If one person agrees, I feel approved with what I said. So thank you very much, James. You've perked me up this morning. But you know what? I'm looking forward to my Sunday. I'm over yesterday's defeat. And actually, I'm looking forward to the game on Thursday. European football's back. Bring it on. I love it. I've got used to it. I really enjoy seeing West Ham play on Thursday nights in European football. So bring it on. And I might regret saying this, but I'm actually quite looking forward to the game next weekend away to Liverpool. Now, historically, I hate going to Anfield. I go there with no hope. And I think I've been proven correct. You can count on one hand how many times we've played well at Anfield. Forget the result, forget whether we've got anything, just playing well. We don't do it, it doesn't happen. Bar that back in 2016 with or 2015 it was, sorry, with Slaven Bilic, with Lanzini and Dimitri and Mark Noble and Sacco. Oh, I loved that game. But it's not a David Moyes thing. Obviously Moyes has got a horrendous record away to certain clubs in the Premier League, and Liverpool is one of those. It's not just a David Moyes thing, it's a Pellegrini thing, it's a Bilic thing, it's an Allardyce thing. It goes back for years. I hate going to Anfield. But for some reason, I'm okay with it today. I'm like, bring it on, let's see what they got, let's see what we got. Anyway, there's an event in yesterday's game I want to discuss, but it leads into two separate discussions. And that's the substitutions David Moyes made or was going to make, because I got one of my questions answered. So far this season, I've been waiting to see what David Moyes is going to do without Michail Antonio. We know what Moyes' plan is, Antonio up front. But what are you going to do when he's unavailable? Because he needs subbed in every game. So I think at this point, after 5 matches, I think it's a fair assumption that when Antonio starts, we're going to have to take him off around about the 70th minute mark. He does look tired in games. He looked tired early on yesterday against Man. I don't think he played well yesterday, but I think he's had some good performances this season, so I'm happy to sort of ignore yesterday's game. It's a difficult game to get involved in as a striker against Manchester City, but I thought when the ball was in his vicinity, I didn't think he looked too bothered. But regardless of, this isn't about Antonio's performance. This is about what Moyes is going to do when Antonio either needs to come off or is unavailable for the game. What's your plan? Because so far we haven't seen it. We've had 4 games so far, but because of the transfer windows, so on and so forth, we've not really seen what Moyes has wanted to do. I know he's used Ings, but I've never been convinced that's his plan B. At the end of last season, at the start of this season, Moyes has hinted about Jarrod Bowen being a striker. Could we use Bowen as a striker more often? And I think you have to take that. You can't just disregard what Moyes has said there. You have to take that as an insight into what he's thinking. And we've seen it already this season in games where Bowen's gone up front. Pre-season, we've seen Bowen getting moved up front. Sometimes in a front two. We were playing 3 at the back often. Bowen would go up front with someone. So I think there was enough evidence from what Moyes said pre-season so far this season that maybe long-term Moyes is going to use Jarrod Bowen as a striker. And I think we got an indication of that yesterday as well. When he made the substitutions and Kudus came on for Antonio, Bowen went up front again. So I think I've got my answer. What is David Moyes' plan without Michail Antonio? I think it's going to be Jarrod Bowen going up front and Kudus going over onto the right-hand side. Now, I think personally, from what I've seen of Kudus at Ajax, which is quite a bit, it's not like I've seen him twice. I've seen him maybe 20 times, I think. I've maybe seen Kudus play. I've seen him a bit because of their Champions League group last season. That helped. I ended up watching a lot of Ajax, but also when he played at the World Cup, I thought he was superb at the World Cup. So out on the right is where I think is possibly his best position for the Premier League. So I've got no problems with him going out into the Bowen position. Do I want to see Bowen up front though? Not necessarily. I'm waiting to see something that shows that Bowen can be a really good striker. We know Bowen can finish well. He's shown that this season. He showed it. That goal against Brighton in particular was incredible. That was what you want to see from your striker. So there is stuff there from Jarrod that he could maybe do what Moyes wants, but I actually think Kudus might be more suited. While I think Kudus would be better out on the right for Kudus, I think for Moyes he might actually be better as a like-for-like replacement for Michail Antonio. But I think we've got our answer for now. which is expect Kudus to be coming on when Antonio is flagging, and either Bowen goes up front or Kudus might just go up front. And I'm okay with that, actually, because the alternative is Danny Ings to come on up front, and we know that doesn't work in the way that we play under David Moyes. It doesn't work. Some games we will need him. If 20 minutes to go, we're at home to Sheffield United in a couple of weeks and it's 0-0, do you know what? Danny Ings might be the right player to bring on because of the way Sheffield play, because they play with a back three. Ings might actually be the best striker to bring on in that situation. Try to get that fox in a box type player going on so that we can start putting crosses in and Ings is in the right place. Get the better, because he probably is. Ings is probably the best finisher, and in terms of positioning in the 18-yarder, I would argue Ings is the best at it at the club. So bringing him on in that game would be suitable. But away to Liverpool next week, I struggle to see a scenario where Ings is the best candidate to bring on. So I think we might see more Kudus. And I think it's only me that's been asking. Well, other people have been wondering it too. But I've got my question answered. What's Moyes' plan with that, Antonio? I think we just got it. Kudus to come on. Now, before we talk about the second thing, because I actually think, and this is a bit of a brave thing for me to say, I think Moyes went for it yesterday. I think that was David Moyes going for it. Now, before we discuss it, just want to quickly point in the direction of two things. First of all, we've got the Hammers Chat store. We've got some new merch. We've got the Champions mugs. We've got 5 new mug designs in, all about Prague. This is 2 of them, because they're my favourite 2. That's like a nice classic design. Just says Champions Prague 2023. And this has got a picture of the players in the background with their medals around their neck. And we've also got a Paulo Di Canio coaster. A new coaster is coming to the store. And the coasters have been really popular since we brought them out. So thank you to anyone who's grabbed one. Second of all, Patreon. I know you're going to be like, oh, here he goes again. But we need to promote it. It's essential to helping us do this as our job, which allows us to upload once a day on each YouTube channel for free. So you get a video for free. If you took Patreon away, we couldn't do it. We'd probably do about 2 videos a week on YouTube per channel. Not that much. But the reason I'm bringing up Patreon is A, because we need your support, and B, because we've changed it a little bit, or Patreon's changed it, so you can now get a trial. But let me be very clear here, it's for the middle tier, mild addicts only, and you get a 7-day free trial, but at the end of it, they automatically charge you. So after 6 days, you don't like it, please go and cancel it. But if you fancy joining Patreon, you get more video content, you get online discount to our store. So if you fancy some merch, you can save a little bit of money. You get entry into our giveaways. We've also given away 6 tickets already this season for home games. We gave 3 away for Chelsea and 3 away for the Man City games. You can go to patreon.com/hamschat, links in the description. Thank you to anybody that does join up. Your support is massively appreciated. Anyway, back to this. Moyes going for it. I know some people are going to think, what were you watching? But just hear me out, okay? Because I still am not David Moyes' biggest fan and never will be. There's people out there that love David Moyes. I will never like Moyes as much as that person. But one thing I've been critical of him in the past is no plan B. Right? I think sometimes we've got one way of playing. If it don't work, tough. We're going to play that way anyway. And it gets frustrating at times. Another thing I've been critical of him in the past is his substitutions. I think they've been pretty poor. I think quite defensive. Bournemouth away at the start of the season, I thought they were a bit defensive. I didn't think we went on to win the game. That frustrated me. Away to Bournemouth, and we're playing for the point. Now, obviously at that point, it was the first game of the season. Had we done it yesterday, I was like, all right, it's not ideal, but we've had a good start to the season, so I get why he's doing it. But first game of the season, I wanted to see something from Moyes. Say, we're going to try and win this game. We're going to try and play more attacking football this season. I didn't see it on the first game. I wasn't happy. And at times, he doesn't go for it. Now, go for it is a very subjective phrase, right? We'll get onto that. But yesterday, I thought Moyes did. In the David Moyes way, that was going for it, in my opinion. The substitution, whenever it was, I mean, they were waiting for a good 5 minutes, weren't they? Benrahma and Kudus coming on for Antonio and Souček. You know the subs. Now, I know that wasn't the subs that took place, but that's what David Moyes went to do. His intention was to take off Souček and to take off Antonio, put Benrahma on the left, Bowen up front, Kudus on the right, Paqueta drops in next to Ward-Prowse with Alvarez behind him. That is what David Moyes wanted to do. 4-3-3, that was the plan. And in my opinion, that is David Moyes going for it. Now, going for it is a funny old phrase. I've tried to stop saying it on Hammers Chat because I've said it plenty of times in the past, and some people will apply what they think is going for it. So if I say I want to see West Ham go for it, in some people's head, going for it means, I don't know, playing 4 strikers, and they hang on a minute, if you do that, you're going to get ripped apart. But that's not what I mean. But I understand it's subjective. That phrase is very, very subjective. And for me, going for it is, I try to use the phrase attacking responsibly. Now, it's just a phrase I made up. Probably doesn't make loads of sense, but because I don't like using the phrase going for it, because of the misinterpretation, I try and say attacking responsibly. So what I mean by that is that when we play a game, it doesn't matter who it's against, I want to see a plan from the manager. I want to see tactics deployed, which is that when we have the ball, we possess a threat to our opponents. It's as simple as that. I want to see us try and win the game. I want to see us try and score goals. And I want to see us have a plan to do that. Now, that doesn't mean playing 5 strikers. It doesn't mean having 80% possession. Yesterday against Man City, up until those subs, like I said at the very start, we rode our luck. I think the 3-1 defeat, I feel it was a fair scoreline. I thought it was reflective of the game. We were lucky not to concede 5 or 6 in the end. Arriola was our man of match. City missed some big chances in that game. But I still think individually there's some really good performances. And I came away from the game feeling okay. I was okay with it. I was alright. But that substitutions, I have to be honest with you, I was surprised and impressed. When I seen him coming on, Benrahma Kudus, I thought, oh, this is interesting. What's he going to do? I thought, surely he's not a way to... I thought Antonio's definitely going, because he's been in... He just wasn't in the game at all. So I thought, who else is he going to bring off? Because I thought, he better not bring off Paqueta, because I thought he was class. I thought, he won't bring off Jared Bowen. So is he going to take off Ward-Prowse? We've seen him do it so far this season, but I was hoping not. He wouldn't take off Alvarez, so that left Souček, and I thought, well, that's who I hope he takes off. And I thought, if Moyes takes Antonio and Souček off here, not only will I be surprised, but I will be impressed. So when the subs went up, and that was the 2 he intended on doing, I have to say, part of me thought, well done, David Moyes, because this is Moyes going for it. Defending for the hour, and then bringing on an additional attacker. And there's only one additional attacker. He's taking off his striker and replacing him, and then he's going to bring on an attacking winger for a centre midfield. So that is Moyes' way of going for it. Now, I'm not saying you have to like it, and I'm not saying that you have to agree with how Moyes was going about it. But what I'm asking you to do, politely, is agree that that is the way that David Moyes thinks about going for it. That is what David Moyes perceives as going for it. And I have to agree, because it was working. In David Moyes' eyes, it had worked. We'd got to the hour mark, 1-1. We were in the game. We just had the best chance of the game, arguably, with Michail Antonio being put through and goal by Paqueta from a central position, who was now away to be moved into the centre in order to accommodate Benrahma on the left. So Antonio got put through 1-on-1. He just didn't finish it. It was a poor second touch. It was a heavy touch that allowed Ederson to get it. But it was working. Moyes' plan was working. Were we riding our luck? Yes. But the scoreline at the end of the day, all that matters is the result. And at that point, it was 1-1, and Moyes was able to do his 2 substitutions, which, I don't know, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that perhaps they were pre-planned. Perhaps he thought, if I can get to the hour mark, then I'll do these subs. We'll have a bit more attacking intent about us. We'll be able to play counter-attacking football. At this point, because we're now in the hour mark, there's a likelihood Man City are probably going for it even more than they were. Maybe Pep will start pushing players up. And I think they were. Kyle Walker was far more advanced in the second half than he was in the first. I do feel like he was pushed infield to take care of Paqueta. Because Paqueta was on the left on paper, but he wasn't playing left midfield. He was playing... I've seen him playing defensive midfield more than left midfield in the first half. So moving Walker in there, stop Paqueta getting on the ball. I get what Pep was doing. But I felt that was Moyes going for it. Now, obviously, Alvarez got injured, had to come off. Souček stayed on, and we fell apart defensively. We weren't as good without Alvarez. So we never actually got to see what David Moyes' game plan was. We got to see some samples of it with Kudus, Bowen and Benrahma, and Benrahma was poor. He was really bad. I thought Benrahma was awful actually when he came on. So we had a 3-man attack, and one of them was completely ineffective. But when you've got that 3, or you've got 3 counter-attacking direct players, and you've got Paqueta and Ward-Prowse in midfield in order to give them the ball, that's quite tasty. And I have to confess, I look forward to seeing this. But when we go to Anfield next Sunday, I want to see Kudus. I would love to see Kudus, Bowen and Antonio with Paqueta and Ward-Prowse in midfield. I would love to see that, because that is supply, but that's also threat as well. So we never really got to see Moyes' plan. But I'm still going to give him credit for, in Moyes' world, going for it against Man City at home. I think he did. Now, the Alvarez thing was... The good news is he's not injured. Roshane from The Athletic asked him after the game about his injury, and he basically said he just felt... It was probably cramp. That's why he had to come off. You know, he'd gone away, long-distance flight, etc., etc. So that probably just took its toll on him. But we fell apart without him. We missed him. And this is why, when I did a video with Gonzo last week and I said I wasn't too keen on us letting Flynn Downs go out because we didn't have a replacement for Alvarez, and I badly worded it saying that I think Downs is better than Souček, but it wasn't ability. I wasn't talking about ability. I was talking about replacement for Alvarez, and I think I seen that yesterday. Souček couldn't do what Alvarez does. Now, I'm not saying Downs is as good as Alvarez. I'm not saying that at all, but at least Downs is a natural defensive midfielder, which Souček isn't, and we lost Alvarez massively when he went off. So, sort of had a question at the start of the game. Well, not really, but pre-Man City, what are we going to do with Antonio? Well, I've got one post-Man City. What are we going to do without Alvarez? Because I'm not sure Thomas Souček is the answer. At some points, he was further forward than Paqueta and Ward-Prowse. We just didn't have a defensive midfielder. We sort of just abandoned that protection for the back four. But, do you know something? I thought Moyes went for it. In a Moyes world, listen, like I said, I'm not his biggest fan, but I try to criticise him where I think it's fair, and I try and give him praise where I think it's fair. I just give my honest view on things. You might think it's positive, great. You might think it's negative, obviously not so good, but still my honest thoughts. And I think, as far as David Moyes goes, that's as attacking as you're going to get against Man City. Now, I know the statistics don't make for good reading in terms of shots and possession, but I disregard possession because I've seen us have 30% possession under Slaven Bilic but score 4 goals, and I've loved watching it. So I don't take possession as the be all and end all in football. But Moyes, I honestly feel Moyes went to go for it but just couldn't with Alvarez going off the pitch. But it's made me interested to see if we do those substitutions again at Anfield and Alvarez stays on. I think you see a different West Ham. I think you see a different game plan I think you see the same game plan from David Moyes. I just think you see a different outcome. Hopefully, one that provides a bit more entertainment and a bit more threat. So yeah, I'm intrigued to say the least. I think that's why I've been able to get over the Man City one a little bit quicker, because he could have brought on Fornals and tried to go. He could have took Fornals on for Antonio, put Fornals out on the right and Bowen up front, but he didn't. He brought on Kudus. I'm okay with that. It's almost got me a little bit excited for next Sunday. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to shut up. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you've got this far in the video, hopefully you've enjoyed it. Please do drop a like on it by clicking thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new to Hammers Chat. If you fancy getting yourself some new Hammers Chat mugs or coasters or socks or signed Tony Gale book or t-shirts, hammerchatstore.com. And if you fancy starting that trial on Patreon, go to patreon.com/hammerchat. Myself and Gonzo will be live tomorrow with the player ratings from the game yesterday. We go through each individual as well as the manager, give them a rating out of 10, and it's usually about a 45-minute to an hour long video, so it's quite a lengthy video we do, player ratings, and we get you guys involved as well, because we're fortunate to have a patron called Stephen. So over the course of the season, he's going to be tallying your player ratings as well, not just ours, yours. So we're getting a hammer of the match for every single game, going by the player ratings, but also in May, you. So if you join in player ratings, you give us your player ratings at the end of every game. In May, Stephen will give you your organic hammer of the year, because he'll give you the averages for what you've rated the players over the season. A very handy feature, which has got nothing to do with me and Gonzo. So a massive thank you to Stephen. Right, I'm definitely shut up. I'm going to go enjoy my Sunday. Well, we've got Bournemouth, Chelsea. Come on, Bournemouth. And then we've got Everton, Arsenal. Well, come on, Everton. We need Everton to keep our top 4 hopes alive. Just a joke. Just a joke. I'll catch you tomorrow.